Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Ceres in the second house in a natal chart. Now, Ceres in astrology can reflect on, be connected with how one may nurture and care, and it may also be associated with how one may desire to be nurtured and cared for. Now, given this is second house energy, this person may nurture and care through money. It may be through monetary things or material items by giving somebody things that are gifts that are material. It could be in through possessions. Maybe, I mean, say if this is in Pisces, it could be very strong self-sacrificing energy in connection with one's possessions and resources. And it may be through matters with self-esteem. It might be through just making others feel better about themselves. The power of positive thinking, especially having a sign like Sagittarius, which is very expansive and that eternal, incorrigible optimist. It could also be through buying and selling, maybe helping others through buying something that they may have, or selling something that others may have for them, and helping others make some money, especially if they're in a situation when they're in like a strong financial dilemma or what have you. And anyway, and also too, the second house is connected with physical sex, so it could be through something of that nature as well if you are involved in an intimate relationship with someone. So anyway, well, as far as Ceres goes in astrology, it could also be associated with dissipated or depleted self-worth or self-esteem. Now, given that this is the second house, it may be through some cases, it could be through some monetary loss, or maybe not feeling good about oneself due to not generating the income that one may desire. It could be through values. Say if this is in Gemini, it could be through superficial or frivolous values. It might be through one's possessions, either not having the right possessions or enough possessions to make this person feel worthy enough, or it could be through maybe the expense, or I should say the spending on possessions that were not necessarily to this person's benefit. I mean, just maybe wasting money on things that are frivolous, as an example, that may not be of much significance. And also too, could be connected with one's resources. The second house in astrology also corresponds with Taurus, so it might be through just being overly stubborn or obstinate, maybe about things that one shouldn't have been. So holding on to things that one should not hold on to or possess, perhaps. So anyway, um, now Ceres in astrology can also be connected with eating issues or disorders that are associated with food and eating. Now, given that this is the second house, it could be through just general lack of self-worth or self-esteem, or how one may feel about his or herself. It could be through lack of a monetary, good monetary situation, or it could be through, has to do with one's maybe possessions. This person may equate possessions with how one may feel about themselves and their self-worth, but it could also be maybe, even given that this is the house of Taurus, maybe through lack of some tenacity or persistence as well in something. It could be somebody that just feels down and out, feels despondent because of their general monetary situation. It might be through sensual matters. Maybe it's supplanting some kind of physical, sexual energy or sensuality. Especially, I mean, if you have this like in Capricorn, it could be very despondent energy and really just feeling, I mean, terms of your self-worth very restricted or very, very down as far as that goes, might cause some despondency and may lead to some eating issues, but eating issues, of course, are very isolated and rare. Now, Ceres in astrology can also equate to how one may raise children. It could be, if you are a parent and are raising children, it might be one where you instill a lot of good values and may having the children feel good about themselves, preach having self-esteem and self-worth, and tell them the understanding as far as So they have a general idea or conception how one does work and improve their self-esteem, and also about being self-reliant, being dependent on one's resources in contrast to others, and may also emphasize artistry as well, as this is the second house, and the second house does correspond with Taurus in astrology. And I mean, if you have this, say, in Aquarius in the second house, it could be very innovative art that this person might try to influence their children to be involved in. Pisces could be very abstract art. So anyway, now, Ceres in astrology can also be associated with one being coerced against their will, or forced against their will to go somewhere with somebody. In other words, it's associated with kidnappings and abductions. Now, these things, of course, are very isolated and very rare, but in the event that it may happen, this could be something that might be really more strongly tied into money as far as ransom would go, and it might be connected with somebody that you may have valued strongly, or a person that might feel they need to possess you, or it might, and this could be something later on that might strongly impact how one feels about oneself and in their self-worth, their self-esteem, how they feel about themselves. And you know, I mean, you're probably thinking, well, how can an abduction or kidnapping affect that? Well, it can, if, like, say, if somebody was very gullible and duped into going somewhere with somebody, and it reflects on them, you know, as far as them trusting somebody too quickly, or being overly naive. Especially, let's say, if this is in Pisces in the second house, or if this is making an adverse aspect to your natal Neptune, it could be something where somebody could be more easily duped, or in being very gullible and being led by somebody that they may not even know to go somewhere with them, and it winds up turning into like an abduction or kidnapping. But again, this is very isolated, very minuscule and rare. So anyway, Ceres in astrology can also be connected with the family, with family connections. Now, given this is the second house in astrology, it can be something where your family connection might have been something of a material nature. Maybe you had one or more that family members that may have been possessive of you, or vice versa. It might have been very strongly associated with utilizing each other's resources. It could have been connected strongly with material items, and also there might have be a lot of buying and selling energy associated with this as well. Buying things from family members, selling them, or selling your possessions to family members. So anyway, and it might be something too where there was really, it was family connection you may have may be strongly associated with values, and you might have really learned really a lot of values from your family, more so than on average. So anyway, well, Ceres in astrology can also be associated with dejection, sorrow, and disappointment. Now, given the second house, obviously, if this person is experiencing any despondency, it may be associated with something of a monetary nature, not having the material items one may have in life. It might not. It may be lack. Maybe some sorrow in association with not generating enough money. Maybe you're making less money than your contemporaries or your peers, or it might just simply be that you're not satisfied with what you're making, even though in the perception of others it might actually be a prodigious amount. Now, if this is like making an adverse aspect to your natal Saturn in your chart, this could really reinforce maybe, or reaffirm maybe there may be some certain restrictions on a financial level, or very strong sorrow in connection with that. Or if you have other elements or aspects in your chart that could reaffirm or reinforce, as such as your natal Venus making an adverse aspect to your natal Saturn, Venus in the 12th house, things of even the say having the ruler of the second house of money in the 12th house of restrictions. So anyway, now Ceres in astrology can also be connected with protection, protective energy. This might be a person that might be strongly guarded regarding their money, their material items, their possessions. It might be a person that puts a lot of things in some kind of vault, or some kind of safe deposit box, or something where they feel very secure with it. And it might even be around close associates. They might have their money, really hidden very strongly. I mean, it could be a person. I mean, if this is somebody, like say this is in Sagittarius, this might be a person that might really stock up, say, on sports and athletic related items, but still be very guarded as far as those items go, and keeping them, you know, these items like within arm's length, basically, figuratively speaking. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. Back anyway. Now, Ceres in astrology can also be associated with clothing. Now, this could be a person that might actually be in some clothing business, because the second house is connected with generating income. It could be a person that might be, doing things like with buying and selling clothing. And maybe a person that might be very possessive regarding their clothing as well, and it might be something that correlates with one's self-worth, their self-esteem, how one may feel about themselves. It could be like, say, if this is in Leo, for example, a person that might spend extravagantly on clothing and buying like these, a lot of flamboyant type, outfits and things that stand out, and it might make the person feel better about themselves. The fact that they're actually able to buy expensive clothing, and might make the person feel better in terms of how they see themselves in some instances. Now, Ceres in astrology can also be associated with what one may obliterate in order to restore what one may previously have had. Now, this could be a person that might eradicate, their values in some cases in order to restore maybe their ability to make money. Say this is in Pisces as an example. It might be somebody that might have valued lethargy or indolence a little bit more than what was necessary, and winds up eliminating that in order to make money, generate income through a Pisces venue. It could be, like, for example, something with the metaphysical, which includes astrology, poetry, dancing, photography, chemistry, as examples. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.